The night sky over Earth was peaceful, the kind of calm before a storm that everyone knew deep down would come. On the surface, people were going about their daily lives, unaware that the fate of humanity was about to change forever. A massive alien fleet, cloaked and unseen, was heading toward Earth. It wasn't just any alien force. This was a technologically superior civilization, with machines far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. The alien ships, sleek and menacing, moved like shadows across the cosmos, their cloaking technology rendering them invisible to all human detection systems. They could slip past Earth's radar, hidden in plain sight. Their fleet, a carefully organized group of war machines and massive warships, was controlled by an advanced AI that directed every move. These ships were more than just weapons. They were the future of warfare, combining artificial intelligence with unparalleled destructive power. The fleet arrived on Earth's doorstep without warning. The first cities to fall were those that had the highest concentration of military power, the first line of defense. In mere moments, Earth's defense systems, air missiles, anti-spacecraft guns, and even their most advanced weaponry, were neutralized. The alien forces had already calculated every possible outcome and easily disabled Earth's security. Every attempt to retaliate was futile. Captain Michael Bonner, the leader of Earth's last hope, an elite special forces unit, sat in the quiet of a hidden underground bunker, miles away from the chaos. His team had been preparing for something like this, but not in their wildest nightmares did they expect the aliens to be so fast, so precise, and so devastating. Bonner, a seasoned leader known for his level-headedness under pressure, scanned the screens in front of him. His mind raced, trying to think of a way out, a plan, any chance to save Earth. But every option seemed to have already been crushed by the alien attack. "Sir, all major cities have fallen," Lieutenant Sarah said, her voice trembling as she reported the status to Bonner. "The defensive systems have been compromised. We've lost contact with nearly every base." Bonner stood up, his face a mask of determination. His sharp eyes were focused, his jaw clenched as he processed the devastating information. "We won't give up," he said, the words more a command than a suggestion. His team was the last line of defense. They were Earth's final hope, a handful of soldiers standing against an overwhelming force. The tension in the bunker was thick, the air heavy with the weight of their responsibility. Bonner's mind flashed back to all the training, all the preparation, and all the sacrifices that led to this moment. His team had been through hell, but nothing had prepared them for an attack of this scale. In the midst of the silence, there was a sudden, deafening sound, a sonic boom followed by the roar of an explosion. The bunker shook, and a series of alarms went off. Bonner's heart skipped a beat. It was an airstrike. The aliens had located them. "We've got incoming," yelled Sergeant Miller, his voice full of panic as he checked the radar. "We're under attack. Get to the bunkers now." The soldiers scrambled, grabbing their weapons and running through the narrow hallways to the deeper parts of the shelter. Bonner didn't move. He couldn't. His thoughts were still racing. He had to think. He had to be smart. But just as he was about to issue orders to evacuate, another explosion rang out, louder this time, followed by the sound of shattering metal and collapsing walls. It wasn't just any airstrike. It was a targeted attack. They had hit exactly where Bonner's team was stationed. Earth's best military minds couldn't even comprehend the precision of the aliens' tactics. How were they able to calculate their moves so perfectly? And then it hit him. The humans weren't the real targets. They were just in the way. The aliens were after the heart of humanity's resistance, their will to fight. The AI controlling the alien army had already anticipated their every move, including the movements of Bonner's team. It was no longer a war of military strength. It was a war of survival. The chaos intensified outside. Bonner knew they couldn't stay here. The aliens had targeted their position directly. But as he ordered the team to regroup and prepare for the next phase, he felt a pit in his stomach. He couldn't shake the fear of losing everything. He looked around at his team, his brothers and sisters in arms, each one determined, each one loyal. And then, amidst the alarms and gunfire, the worst possible thing happened. The blast that rocked the bunker came from above. Bonner's eyes widened as he realized what had just occurred. Lieutenant Sarah, his most trusted officer, the one who had always had his back, the one he had trained beside, was no longer there. The explosion had taken her life. The sudden loss was like a punch to the gut. Bonner could feel the blood drain from his face. His chest tightened, his breathing became shallow. He hadn't just lost a team member, he had lost a friend. But there was no time to mourn. There was only time to fight. He looked at his remaining soldiers, his voice low and deadly serious. "We are not losing this war. We fight now for Sarah, for Earth, for every person who thought we could be wiped out like this." The team nodded, their eyes filled with rage and resolve. They weren't just fighting an alien invasion anymore. They were fighting for revenge. They had been backed into a corner, but that was when humanity was at its best. The humans had always survived against all odds, and this time they would rise again. As Bonner led his team through the underground tunnels, preparing for their next move, the silence was deafening. They had to move quickly. The aliens' next strike could come at any moment. The clock was ticking. The suspense built higher as Bonner and his team prepared to face the most difficult mission of their lives. Would they be able to stop the alien forces and save Earth, or would the AI's overwhelming power crush them before they could even strike back? The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity. The sun was setting on Earth's shattered landscape, casting long shadows across the once thriving cities now reduced to ruins. The sound of distant explosions echoed in the air as Bonner and his elite team of soldiers made their way through the wreckage of what was once a bustling military base. This base, located in one of Earth's most vulnerable regions, had been abandoned long before the alien forces arrived. It was the perfect place to make their stand. Bonner's mind raced as he surveyed the surroundings. The city in the distance was burning, smoke rising into the sky as more alien ships orbited above, their cloaking technology still keeping them hidden from Earth's defenses. The human resistance had been pushed back into the dark corners of the planet, and their chances of survival seemed slimmer with each passing hour. But Bonner wasn't ready to give up yet. Not after everything he had fought for. Not after the death of his friend, Lieutenant Sarah. As Bonner and his team entered the crumbling base, the air was thick with the smell of dust and decay. The walls, once fortified with the best technology humanity had to offer, were now cracked and deteriorating. The old, rusted machines still hummed faintly as the team moved deeper into the heart of the facility. The control room was their destination. If they could get it up and running, they might have a chance to strike back. "Sir, we're here," Sergeant Miller said, his voice low and tense. He gestured toward a row of monitors, the flickering screens showing bits and pieces of data from before the attack. It wasn't much, but it was enough to work with. Bonner nodded, his gaze hardening. "Get that weapon online. We don't have much time." The weapon they were activating was an old AI system, something Earth's military had developed years before the invasion. It was considered outdated, not even close to being a match for the advanced technology of the aliens. But it was all they had. The AI was capable of launching a powerful pulse of energy, a shot in the dark that might disrupt the alien network. The catch was that no one had ever tested it against an enemy as advanced as the one they were facing now. It was a gamble, but they had no other option. As the weapon powered up, the base seemed to tremble, as if it too knew the weight of what they were about to do. The team gathered around the central console, their fingers poised over the controls. Bonner glanced at his soldiers, his gaze lingering on each of them. They were tired, broken, but their resolve was unshakable. This was their final chance. The weapon activated with a low hum, the sound vibrating through the walls. A strange energy pulse began to form within the chamber. Bonner's eyes narrowed as he watched the energy build up, unsure of what would happen next. They had no idea if the weapon would even work, but there was no turning back now. Then, without warning, the energy pulse was released. A blinding flash filled the room, and for a split second, Bonner thought everything had gone wrong. But then, something unexpected happened. Outside, in the distance, the alien ships stopped. Their movement froze, as if they had been paralyzed. Bonner felt a wave of disbelief. "Did it work?" he whispered. Miller was the first to speak. I think it did, sir. The AI, it's blinking. It's blinded." The alien eye, the very core of their fleet's intelligence, was temporarily incapacitated. The pulse had overloaded its sensors, blinding the machines, leaving them vulnerable, just for a moment. But that moment was enough. The team quickly scrambled to assess their next move. "We have a window," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We need to act fast." Outside, the sky was filled with the sound of distant explosions as the alien forces retaliated. Orbital bombardment from above rained down on the Earth's surface, and Bonner knew they had mere minutes before the enemy adapted and counterattacked. The pulse might have given them a brief advantage, but the aliens were too powerful to be stopped for long. As the team moved out from the base, the sight that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and horrifying. The city, once filled with life, was now a smoldering battlefield. The ground shook with every explosion, and towering robots, their movements jerky and uncoordinated, patrolled the streets. They were all remnants of the alien eye's control, mindless machines still carrying out their orders despite their temporary blindness. The soldiers braced themselves for the inevitable combat. The pulse had bought them a brief respite, but now it was time to fight for survival. "Cover me," Bonner shouted as he sprinted toward the nearest alien machine, a towering behemoth that stood in the middle of a ruined street. His team quickly formed a defensive perimeter, covering his advance. Bonner reached the machine, firing his weapon into the mechanical monster's joints, aiming for its weak points. The blast sent sparks flying, and the machine faltered, but it didn't go down. "Reloading," Miller shouted from behind him, taking aim at another machine that was closing in. The sounds of gunfire and explosions filled the air as the soldiers fought valiantly against the alien forces. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. But their spirit, their human will to survive, burned brighter than anything the aliens could throw at them. In the midst of the chaos, Bonner's thoughts kept circling back to one thing. He had to protect what was left of humanity, no matter the cost. The base behind them was a symbol of everything Earth had lost, but now it was a battlefield, a place where humanity would make its final stand. The soldiers fought with everything they had, moving in close-quarters combat with alien robots, their weapons slicing through metal, their bodies pressed against the cold, twisted surfaces of machines designed for destruction. In the distance, more alien ships began to take form, their cloaking devices faltering as the pulse's effects slowly wore off. Bonner knew they didn't have much time before the aliens regained their full power. The enemy would strike back with a vengeance. As Bonner stood, panting, blood staining his uniform, he knew this fight was far from over. But in this moment, he could see a flicker of hope, a small glimmer that perhaps Earth still had a chance. The enemy may have had the advantage of technology, but they were about to discover something they hadn't counted on: the power of the human spirit. This was Earth's last chance, and Bonner and his team would fight until the very end. The night sky above was a tapestry of swirling stars, eerily quiet as Bonner and his team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They were about to infiltrate the heart of the alien empire, the flagship ship of the alien commander, a colossal vessel that hovered in the space above Earth, its sleek, dark surface gleaming with an ominous glow. This was no ordinary ship. It was the command center of the alien forces, and it was from here that all of Earth's suffering had begun. The plan was simple but risky. Get aboard the ship, find out what the aliens were planning next, and locate the covert human collaborator who was believed to be helping the aliens. This traitor had been supplying the alien eye with Earth's resources, aiding their invasion, and without knowing it, had become the key to ending the war. If Bonner's team could expose this person and stop the flow of resources, it would cripple the alien forces. But there were too many unknowns, and the cost of failure was too high. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest as he looked over his team one last time. Each of them had been through hell since the invasion began, but there was a sense of quiet resolve in the air. They knew what they were about to do wasn't just a mission. It was a fight for survival, for the future of humanity. "Stay focused," Bonner said, his voice calm but firm. "This is the most dangerous mission we've ever been given. We move in silence. No mistakes. We're not just doing this for ourselves. We're doing it for everyone back home." The team nodded in unison, their faces set in grim determination. Sam, one of the newer members, stood at the back, his eyes full of the same resolve, but also a trace of fear. Bonner knew that Sam was eager to prove himself, to show that he was capable of the same strength as the veterans of the team. The young soldier's loyalty was unwavering, but Bonner could sense the weight of the mission on his shoulders. As they boarded the small, stealth shuttle that would take them to the flagship, Bonner's mind raced. The alien ships had advanced technology that could detect even the faintest heat signatures. The plan was to use a cloaking device that would make them invisible to the enemy, but it would only work for a short time. They had no idea how long they would be able to stay hidden. Once they infiltrated the flagship, the shuttle silently cut through space, its engines whispering as they approached the massive alien ship. It loomed ahead, its surface smooth and reflective, covered in strange, glowing symbols. It was a sight that made even the most seasoned soldiers uneasy. Nothing about this ship was natural. It was an embodiment of everything humanity was fighting against. Landing in 30 seconds, Miller, the team's tech specialist, said. He was focused on the control panel, making sure everything was running smoothly. "Ready?" Bonner asked, glancing at his team. They all nodded. The shuttle touched down on the alien ship's surface with barely a sound. The cloaking device had worked, and they were undetected, for now. They stepped out of the shuttle and onto the cold metal surface of the alien ship. The air was thick with an alien hum, the ship alive with the hum of technology far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. Every step felt like an intrusion, a silent declaration that humanity wasn't giving up. The team moved quickly, using the shadows to cover their movements. They had to reach the command center without being detected. It was a maze of corridors, each turn bringing them closer to their goal, but also closer to danger. The alien forces aboard the ship were not just soldiers. They were a network of sentient machines, all controlled by the central eye. One wrong move, and the entire ship would be on high alert. As they made their way deeper into the ship, Bonner's mind kept drifting back to Sam. The young soldier was doing well so far, staying focused and following orders, but Bonner could see the fear in his eyes. It was a kind of fear that every soldier faced at one point or another. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. Bonner knew that fear all too well. It was something that drove him forward, pushing him to do whatever it took to protect the people he cared about. But he couldn't afford to let his guard down. Not now. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the corridor. Bonner's heart leaped into his throat as the team froze, listening for any signs of movement. Alien soldiers were nearby. "They found us," Miller whispered. "No," Bonner said, his voice low. "They haven't. Stay calm. We'll take them out silently." They crouched, blending into the shadows. Bonner's hand instinctively gripped his weapon, ready for a fight. The footsteps grew louder, and soon, 2 alien soldiers appeared at the end of the hall. Bonner's team was in position, but they had to act fast before the aliens' advanced sensors picked them up. With a signal from Bonner, the team sprang into action. The first alien soldier fell to the ground with a soft thud, a well-placed shot to the back of the head. The second one turned, but Bonner was faster. He darted forward, slamming the alien into the wall, knocking it unconscious with a single strike. "Move," Bonner ordered. They continued, their pace quickening as they neared the command center. But their luck ran out when they encountered a larger force of aliens patrolling the area. A fierce firefight broke out, the sound of gunshots and explosions filling the air. Bonner's team fought hard, but the alien soldiers were too numerous, their advanced weapons tearing through their defenses. Amidst the chaos, Sam was hit. Bonner turned to see the young soldier collapse to the ground, blood spilling from his side. Bonner's heart sank. He rushed to Sam's side, cradling his head in his lap. "No, no, Sam, stay with me," Bonner whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Sam coughed weakly, a faint smile on his face. It's okay, sir," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm just glad I could fight with you. You were right. We're doing this for Earth." Sam's body went limp in Bonner's arms, and in that moment, the full weight of the war hit Bonner harder than ever. The sacrifice of one soldier, one life, was a reminder of the cost of this war. But it also fueled his resolve. Sam's death couldn't be in vain. They had to complete the mission, for Sam, for all of them. "Keep moving," Bonner shouted to the rest of the team, his voice steady despite the grief he felt. "We're not done yet." With Sam's death fueling their determination, the team pressed on. They infiltrated the command center and located the human collaborator, a traitor who had been helping the aliens all along. It was a bitter revelation, but it gave them the final piece of the puzzle. They had what they needed to bring the war to an end. But the loss of Sam would stay with Bonner forever. He would make sure that the young soldier's sacrifice was honored. The war was far from over, but Bonner now carried the memory of his fallen comrade in his heart. They had to win. For Sam, for Earth, for humanity. Bonner and his team finally reached the heart of the alien flagship, its control center. It was a vast, cold room, glowing with alien symbols and high-tech consoles, pulsating with an eerie light. Everything about this place screamed advanced technology, from the walls that seemed to hum with energy to the enormous central hub that controlled the entire ship. But as they stood in front of it, ready to make their last stand, Bonner knew this was only the beginning of the real battle. The alien eye, the brain behind the invasion, was waiting for them. It was far more than just a machine. It was a supreme intelligence that had been observing humanity for years, calculating every move, predicting their strategies, and underestimating their will to fight. The eye had planned everything meticulously, but what it hadn't anticipated was the human element, the ability to adapt, to improvise, to turn the odds in their favor when everything seemed lost. "We're almost there," Bonner said, his voice low but firm. "This is it. The eye's core is right through that door. Once we disable it, Earth has a chance." The team nodded, their faces a mix of determination and grim realization. They had been through so much, but the hardest part was still ahead of them. Bonner could feel the weight of it, the pressure mounting as they prepared to face the eye's defenses. "Let's do this," Miller, the tech specialist, said, tapping his wrist pad to activate their weapons. "We'll need to move fast." The door to the eye's control room opened with a hiss, and Bonner led his team into the heart of the ship. The air was cold and sterile, but every step they took seemed to grow heavier, the silence deafening as they moved deeper into the heart of the enemy's stronghold. The glow of alien technology illuminated their path, casting long shadows that seemed to follow them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the room, and Bonner's heart skipped a beat. Out of the shadows, robotic warriors emerged, each one taller than a man, their metallic bodies gleaming in the dim light, their eyes glowing red with malice. They were the AI's elite enforcers, programmed to protect the core at all costs. Without hesitation, Bonner and his team sprang into action. The air was immediately filled with the sound of gunfire as the team fought back, their weapons sending sparks flying as they collided with the robots. Bonner's heart raced, his body moving on autopilot as his training kicked in. The robots were fast, and their attacks were relentless. They were relentless machines, and they knew no fear. One of the robots lunged toward Bonner, its metal fist swinging with terrifying speed. Bonner barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side as the robot's fist slammed into the ground with a deafening crash. He quickly got to his feet, firing his weapon point blank at the robot's chest. The shot hit its mark, and the robot staggered back, sparks flying from the wound. But it didn't stop. This was no ordinary machine. Bonner gritted his teeth. These robots weren't just machines. They were weapons designed to kill. But they weren't human. They didn't have the unpredictable nature of humanity, and that was something Bonner was counting on. With a roar, he sprinted forward, using his agility to outmaneuver the robot's strikes. He fired again, this time aiming for the robot's weak point, the small opening between its chest plates. The shot hit, and the robot exploded into a shower of sparks, its body crumpling to the ground. But Bonner didn't have time to celebrate. More robots were coming, and they were getting closer with every passing second. He could hear the clank of their feet on the metal floor, the sound of weapons charging, preparing for the next assault. "We need to get to the core," Bonner shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Cover me." His team pushed forward, taking on the robots one by one, each member using their skills to outsmart the machines. Miller was quick with his tech gadgets, hacking into the robot systems and causing their circuits to malfunction. Jenkins, the team's heavy weapons specialist, used his powerful machine gun to mow down robots in seconds, creating a path forward. But as they moved, the air grew thick with tension. The sound of explosions and gunfire filled the room, but it was hard to focus on anything except the looming threat of the AI. They had to get to it before the entire ship turned against them. Bonner's mind raced as he thought about the plan. Infiltrate the AI's core, overload its systems, and disable it completely. But the closer they got, the more obstacles they encountered. The robots weren't the only threat. The AI itself was aware of their presence now, and its influence over the ship's systems was growing stronger. The lights flickered as the ship's defenses activated, doors slamming shut, locking them in. The team had no choice but to fight their way through, each step bringing them closer to their goal, but also to their own potential doom. As they neared the central core, Bonner saw something that froze him in his tracks, an enormous figure emerging from the shadows. It was a massive, humanoid robot, its frame towering over the team, its eyes glowing a menacing red. This was no ordinary enforcer. It was the AI's ultimate weapon, a machine designed to take down entire armies. The team barely had time to react as the giant robot lunged at them. Bonner ducked, narrowly avoiding its crushing fist as it swung down. The ground beneath them shook, and the force of the impact sent the team sprawling. "Get up," Bonner shouted, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to disable it. Now." But the robot was relentless. It advanced, each strike sending the team reeling, each step shaking the entire control room. Bonner knew they couldn't keep this up for long. The robot was too strong, and their weapons were no match for its armor. That's when Bonner realized what he had to do. He looked at Miller, who was already working on hacking into the AI's systems, trying to find a way to overload the robot's circuits. Bonner knew that if they didn't disable it, they wouldn't survive long enough to reach the core. "Do it now," Bonner shouted. With a quick nod, Miller activated the system, sending a surge of energy through the robot's systems. The robot staggered, its movements jerking as the energy coursed through its circuits. Bonner seized the opportunity, charging forward and landing a powerful strike to the robot's weak spot. Sparks flew as the robot's body collapsed to the ground with a deafening crash. "Move," Bonner ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. With the giant robot down, the team pushed forward, racing toward the core. But the final battle was far from over. The AI was still alive, and Bonner knew that the fate of Earth rested on their ability to defeat it. As they reached the central hub, the last obstacle to their victory, Bonner could feel the tension in the air. They had come so far, but the hardest part was yet to come. In the chaos of the battle, one thing was clear. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to outsmart the AI. This wasn't just a fight for victory. It was a fight for Earth's very existence. And Bonner and his team were the last hope. The AI's control center was now within reach, and Bonner felt a strange sense of clarity. His heart was pounding, and every step felt heavier than the last. His team had been through so much, fought countless battles, and sacrificed everything. But now, with the AI's core in sight, they were ready to end the invasion. Bonner's team, battered but unbroken, moved forward through the labyrinth of the flagship's corridors. Every corner they turned, every hallway they crossed, seemed to pulse with the energy of the alien intelligence they were about to confront. They were nearing the final obstacle, and with each passing moment, the weight of their mission became more real. The alien forces, though scattered and weakened, were still a constant threat. The team had fought their way to this point, but Bonner knew this last push would be the hardest, and as they approached the AI's control core, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. They had to move quickly before the AI fully regained control of the ship, before it could send out another wave of devastating counterattacks. "Ready for this?" Miller asked, his voice low and steady. The tech specialist was typing furiously on his wristpad, trying to bypass the final layer of encryption protecting the AI's central systems. Bonner looked at him, knowing the entire fate of Earth rested on this final step. "We have to be," Bonner replied. "We don't get another shot." As the team reached the heart of the control center, Bonner knew the time had come. The core, a massive pulsating mass of energy, was the brain of the entire invasion. Every inch of the alien fleet, every weapon, every robot, they all depended on this central AI. But they also knew that destroying the core would mean disabling all of it. The alien fleet, their robots, and the remaining forces would collapse without the AI to guide them. The future of humanity would be secured, but at a cost. Bonner could feel the weight of that truth pressing down on him. The team fanned out around the core, their weapons at the ready. But as Bonner stepped forward, he felt a sudden sharp pain in his side. He gritted his teeth, trying to push the feeling away, but it only grew worse. His vision blurred for a moment, but he forced himself to focus. The mission wasn't over. Not yet. Bonner, Jenkins, the heavy weapons specialist, noticed the change in his leader's stance. "You all right?" "I'm fine," Bonner said, his voice strained. "Focus on the mission." But deep down, Bonner knew something was wrong. He was bleeding heavily, and the wound was deep. It wasn't just a scrape or a cut. It was fatal. He could feel the life draining out of him, but he couldn't afford to stop. Not now. "Bonner, you need medical attention," Miller said, turning to Bonner with concern. "This can wait." "No, it can't," Bonner interrupted. "Earth doesn't have time for that. We finish this, or we lose everything." With a strained breath, Bonner turned to face the AI core. The energy from it was overwhelming, but he ignored the dizzying feeling, the cold sweat on his forehead. This was the moment that would define everything. As Miller finished his work on the console, Bonner saw the team position themselves for the final assault. They had a plan. The energy pulse needed to overload the core, but it was risky. The moment they triggered it, the ship would start falling apart. They'd have minutes, maybe seconds, to escape. "Are we ready?" Bonner asked, his voice steady, but the pain in his chest growing more intense. "Almost there," Miller responded, his fingers flying across the console. "Just a few more seconds." Bonner looked at his team. They were all there, loyal to the end, willing to fight for Earth, for humanity's survival. And despite everything, despite the machines, the odds, and the enemy, Bonner felt a small spark of hope. They could do this. But just as Miller was about to complete the final sequence, the room suddenly shook. An explosion rattled the walls, and the control center's lights flickered, then went out entirely. The AI had anticipated their move. The entire room was bathed in darkness, and the air was thick with tension. "Move," Bonner shouted. "We're out of time." The team spread out, fending off the last waves of alien soldiers that had appeared from nowhere. The core was still active, but its power was starting to wane. Miller was racing against the clock now, his hands moving frantically as the console blinked and sparked. Bonner, despite his injury, moved to help. His steps were slow, but he pushed forward, his mind focused on the task at hand. The pain in his side was unbearable now, but he couldn't give in. Not when they were so close. "Almost there," Miller muttered. And then, with one final push, the console sparked, and a massive wave of energy erupted from the core. It was a blinding pulse, so bright it almost seemed like the sun had exploded inside the room. Bonner shielded his eyes, but he could feel the heat of it, the intensity. The ship trembled violently, and Bonner knew it was done. The AI had been disabled, its control over the ship broken. But the victory was bittersweet. Bonner staggered back, his body giving way to the pain. He could feel his legs weakening, his breath coming in shallow gasps. The energy pulse had worked, but he had paid the price. He could hear his team shouting, but everything felt distant now. The noise of the battle, the flashes of explosions, the cries of his team. It all felt like a fading memory. As Bonner collapsed to his knees, he could see his soldiers rushing toward him, but it was too late. His vision was blurring, the world around him spinning. He had given everything for this moment. Jenkins knelt beside him, panic in his eyes. "Bonner, no, stay with us." But Bonner could only smile weakly. He had done what he came here to do. The AI was gone. Earth was saved. Humanity had won. "Tell them. We fought," Bonner whispered, his voice barely audible. Jenkins held his hand, tears in his eyes. "You did, Bonner. You did." Bonner's last breath was slow, and as he exhaled, he knew his work was done. His sacrifice had made the difference. The alien forces had been defeated, Earth had been saved, and humanity had won. And as his heart stopped beating, the world around him seemed to pause, just for a moment. A hero had fallen, but his legacy would live on in the freedom he had fought so hard to protect. The dust had finally settled. The sky above Earth was clear, the weight of the war lifting from the planet's shoulders. What had seemed impossible just days before now stood as a testament to human resilience. The alien forces that had once dominated the galaxy, their AI supreme and untouchable, were now shattered, crumbling in the wake of humanity's unexpected and hard-won victory. Bonner had given his life to see this moment, and the world was forever changed because of it. But the battle wasn't just won on the ground. It was also fought in the hearts of every human who had dared to rise against an overwhelming foe. As Earth began to rebuild, it was clear that something extraordinary had taken place. The planet was no longer just a world among others in the galaxy. It had become a beacon of hope, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when united against all odds. The first to recognize this change were the alien races who had long considered Earth just another insignificant world, one that could be easily crushed beneath the weight of their superior technology. They had underestimated humanity, not just in terms of strength, but in spirit. Now, Earth had emerged from the ashes of war with its own technology rising rapidly, and more importantly, with the confidence to stand tall before any alien force. The Galactic Council, the once powerful assembly of civilizations, watched in disbelief as humans flexed their newfound strength. No longer were they a primitive species to be ignored or exploited. Earth was beginning to speak on equal terms with the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. It wasn't just a matter of technology. It was humanity's unity that had shocked the universe. The people of Earth had not only fought for their survival, but had done so with a strength born from their unity and determination. They had fought not just for the sake of Earth, but for the future of all free worlds. In the days following their victory, The world watched as the leaders of the Galactic Council hesitated, unsure how to respond to the rise of humanity. For the first time, they were confronted with a question they had never anticipated. What did it mean to be a part of this new era? It didn't take long for the answer to become clear. Earth was no longer a place to be pitied. It was a force to be reckoned with. The alien fleets that had once seen humans as insignificant pests were now forced to acknowledge the might of their united front. The AI, once thought to be the ultimate intelligence, had been brought low by the unpredictable, yet unstoppable nature of humanity. The very thing that made humans unique, their ability to adapt, innovate, and fight for each other, had been the key to their success. And so, Earth began to rebuild. The cities that had once been broken by the battle now rose from the ground, stronger and more advanced than ever before. Human ingenuity, combined with the remnants of alien technology, allowed for a rapid evolution in their scientific capabilities. Humanity's technology had advanced, and with it, their military strength. But it wasn't just their weapons that had improved, it was their society. The lessons learned from the war were not just about defeating an enemy. They were about understanding the importance of working together, of putting aside differences, and of building a future where all could thrive. The unity that had made them strong during the war became the foundation of the new world they were creating. Governments, once fractured by power struggles and politics, now worked together with a single purpose: to ensure humanity's survival and progress. The alien forces, too, felt the shift. Those who had once scoffed at humanity's ability to resist had been forced to change their views. The galaxy was no longer a place where the strong crushed the weak with ease. The rise of Earth, and its display of strength and unity, sent ripples throughout the galaxy, reminding everyone that no force, no matter how technologically advanced, was invincible. The victory against the AI was more than just the fall of a single enemy. It was the defeat of a mindset that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. The idea that machines, technology, and artificial intelligence were supreme had been shattered. Humanity had proven that there was more to strength than just the power of machines. There was the power of the human will, unpredictable, unyielding, and impossible to control. As Earth's representatives made their way to the Galactic Council, they were met with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. The Council had been forced to reevaluate everything they had known about humanity. They had underestimated Earth's ability to rise from the ashes, to stand up against a power that seemed unstoppable. But now, they could see the truth. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. As the leaders of Earth stood before the Galactic Council, their message was clear. They had no interest in domination or conquest. What they sought was peace, cooperation, and mutual growth. Earth's power wasn't about controlling the galaxy. It was about ensuring that all species, no matter their size or strength, had a place in the universe. They had learned the hard way that unity was the key to survival, and they would extend that hand of unity to others. For the first time, the galaxy's most advanced species understood the value of working together with humanity. The old ways of war and conquest began to give way to diplomacy and collaboration. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the forefront of that change. The final message from Earth's leaders resonated across the stars. We stand together, not as conquerors, but as equals. We are united not just in strength, but in purpose. We will face whatever challenges the universe throws at us, and we will do it together. The war was over, but the real work had only just begun. Earth, having conquered its greatest threat, now set its sights on the future. With their new technology, their united front, and the lessons they had learned through their sacrifice, humanity was poised to lead the galaxy into a new era. An era where cooperation, understanding, and the power of unity would be the foundation of peace. The battle had been won, but the real story of humanity's rise had just begun. The galaxy would never forget the lesson they had learned, that even the most advanced forces, even the most supreme intelligence, could be defeated by the will of the human spirit. And so, the dawn of a new era began.